St Austell, Heineken, Thatcher Cider, LED Studio, our front of shirt sponsors in the championship, Bomb IT, Raise Projects, Easy, Bristol Fire, Hunter Selection, Digby Associates, Astra Security, Bargain and Kirby Solicitors, Igloo Bars, Schools Mailing, Castle Howell, UES, 6 O'Clock Gin, Towergate, F. Woodruff Funeral Services, MCR Systems, Sports Rooms, R&R Catering, Christophe Duchamp, Alliance, and Grundon Waste. If you're planning to be with us on Friday for the start of the T20 Plus, worth bearing in mind that there is a Gloucestershire women's match also on the same day. It is a double header. The women's match starts at 3 o'clock and therefore gates will open at 2. The women play Glamorgan at 3, and then the Gloucestershire men play Warwick Spares in the first quite anti-last game at 7 o'clock. Tickets for the day are available on the Gloucestershire cricket website, and the women had a good win yesterday in the County Cup against Oxfordshire. They'll play Essex away in round 3. slightly delayed start, but good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks to Ben and the team for getting the ground ready for us to get at least underway at 11:30 this morning after the rain, both overnight and earlier today. This is, of course, the final day of this match between Gloucestershire and Northamptonshire. Welcome to our umpires for this match, James Treadwell and Hassan Adnan. Our scorers once again on this final day are Terry Owen for Northamptonshire and Adrian Bull for Gloucestershire. JJ Swift has been a match referee throughout the contest. And please welcome onto the field the Gloucestershire side, captained by number 1 Cameron Bancroft, and resuming for Northamptonshire, number 38 Nathan McSweeney and number 13 Harry Conway.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome along to Bristol. And against the odds, we're getting some cricket in the morning session. Incredible, really, given the forecast that we saw yesterday evening. And I must admit, I woke up in the middle of the night and had a bit of a look. And the radar suggested that it would be raining heavily from about 8 in the morning until, goodness knows, 1, 2 o'clock solidly. But amazingly, this corridor between two sets of heavy rain bands hasn't yet shut up. So we're going to get underway and, well, what do we need? We may need a couple of hours. There are, in theory, 88 overs remaining because on the final day we start losing overs straight away. But Gloucestershire and Northamptonshire are going to start this final day at 11:30. Lunch, in theory, is at 1:30, but it may be that either we get an interruption before then or the game is over because Northamptonshire are 144 for 5. They require 105 runs and Gloucestershire require 5 wickets to win the game. Ed Seaborn and Andrew Radd with you on the BBC Sport website and app. Commentary brought to you by BBC Radio Bristol, BBC Radio Gloucestershire and BBC Radio Northampton. And Will Williams is going to bowl the first over. Well, I say the first over. He's got 2 balls remaining in his carryover over from yesterday evening. He's bowling to Harry Conway, the night watchman, and that's been defended to mid-off for no run. Radders, morning. I don't really know how we've managed it once again, but we managed to dodge all the rain yesterday. We've dodged a significant portion of the rain overnight and this morning, and here we are.
Yeah, well, I suppose we don't know exactly how it's going to pan out, so it is a bit of a corridor of uncertainty, but it's, well, just delighted to see some cricket.
Williams in bowls, turned leg side by Conway and fielded at mid-wicket for no run. I do have some pretty significant breaking news, by the way. We saw that Luke Charlesworth was marking out his run and marking it from both ends. So that immediately got us wondering in terms of what might have happened there, because Ben Charlesworth was not on the field yesterday evening, hadn't taken to the field at all. But I'm now being told that Luke Charlesworth has replaced Gabe Bell, which is quite a significant potential moment in the match. Not to say that Luke Charlesworth couldn't still play a defining role, but making his first championship appearance since 2024, having been injured for all of the start of this season. He now comes in replacing a man who has taken over as Gloucestershire's leading wicket taker this season, had 2 wickets this innings, but apparently will sadly play no further part for Gloucestershire this season because this was due to be his final match.
Craig Miles running in from the Ashley Down Road end and covers up McSweeney, plays it out to mid-wicket and there's no run. That's sad news for Gabe Bell. Must have been the effects of him being interviewed by you last night, Ed. You must have finished him off.
Well, again, it's funny, isn't it? We've had 2 days in a row where yesterday it was Save Zabe. Again, I don't know what the issue is with Bell, but there were certainly no signs last night that there were any issues at all.
No, I spoke to Safe last night. Here's Miles in, bowls to McSweeney, and that squares him up, and it jumps unpleasantly and just takes him on the right glove. And McSweeney got a couple on the glove last night, one of which required a bit of attention from the physio, Lee Daggett. McSweeney, 41 not out, may well hold the key to this match, one feels. Well, it's very, very disappointing for Gabe Bell, and it's a dreadful way to finish what's been, as he was saying, a very successful spell for Gloucestershire. Hopefully nothing too serious. Here's Miles in outside the off stump, left alone by McSweeney. As far as Safe Zabe was concerned, he just basically confirmed what was said yesterday, which is that he got hit in warm-up on Saturday, and he said he didn't sleep at all following night and was feeling unwell, so they checked him out, and hence the fact it is he's not playing any further part in this match with Louis Kimber replacing him. He's yet to bat. Will certainly miss the T20 on Friday. He was reasonably confident that he might be okay to play next Sunday. Here's Miles in, bowls to McSweeney, plays it out to mid-wicket. And there is no run, fielded there by Miles Hammond. Just the one slip in, Ollie Price. I think he was saying, well, we were originally told that the concussion protocol was 7 days. He thought it was 5. In which case he probably would be okay to play at Worcester on Sunday, but that's, well, not confirmed by any means, so we'll obviously keep tabs on that one. Here's Miles in and bowls to McSweeney and turns it away for the first run of the morning, down to long leg, fielded by Will Williams, so McSweeney goes to 42 and Northamptonshire to 145 for 5, needing a further 104 to win. Harry Conway checking his guard with umpire Hassan Adnan. He was the first one out this morning, wasn't he, after we'd had a little bit of rain first thing. This was probably about, I don't know, 9:15 this morning. None of the other players were visible from either side. Harry was out there just checking. Well, although obviously as a night watchman he's to a greater or lesser extent deemed expendable, it would be very handy from Northamptonshire's point of view if he could hang around for a while. And he's picked up a run as he turns the next ball from Miles down to deep backward square. Joe Phillips, who's still fielding, is working out I'm just trying to work out if he's actually on as a sub or what he's on as anyway. He fields it and it's another run to Northamptonshire. 146 for 5, single apiece to both batters in that over. So McSweeney is 42, Conway is 2, and Northamptonshire need a further 103 to win. Gloucestershire need 5 wickets.
I suppose at this point it's a moot point as to whether Joe Phillips is an injury sub or just a regular sub, because Ben Charlesworth, as I say, didn't take the field yesterday evening and isn't out there again this morning, so he wouldn't have played any further part, and I'm not sure that in terms of Ben Charlesworth's bowling that Gloucestershire would have a like-for-like replacement in that regard, so they're just going to have to go with what they've got. Williams to continue into Conway, and he turns it to mid-wicket, takes a couple of steps down the pitch and then has to get back into his ground. But yes, I suppose it's the beauty of when the night watchman works, where not only can he protect the previous evening, but in certain circumstances can have a serious impact in this sort of a situation. I mean, The Ryan Hadley situation for
yeah.
Glamorgan comes to mind as Williams bowls and Conway chops this away into space through the gully and down to Craig Miles on the wide deep third boundary. So it's another single, 102 to win for Northamptonshire.
Well, Luke Proctor, who I interviewed last night, Northamptonshire captain, who has a very dry sense of humour, was saying, talking about Nathan McSweeney and his importance now in this match, and he said, "Oh, you know, got Harry Conway as well, you know, and hoping for a partnership from them." And he only said it with a very slight smile, but I think they would like him to hang around, certainly.
Well, rise to the occasion. Williams to McSweeney punched to point, and there's no run.
Well, there's one thing of which one can be certain, and that is that nobody will be trying harder than Harry Conway, who is the ultimate competitor. Say whether it's in a squad game with a tennis ball or whatever it happens to be, he just loves being in the thick of it, competing.
Keeper up for McSweeney, who's on 42, and that's a good delivery from Williams that McSweeney has to block out into the onside. So for Gloucestershire then, without Bell, their seamers, Miles and Williams, as we have now. Matt Taylor, I think his spell already was going to be critical at whatever point we got some cricket today, having taken 7 wickets already in the match. But now, without Bell, he's also taken 2 of the 5 in this innings. You think Taylor may have to be the one. Williams bowls, that's going down to fine leg. I don't think that's going to be stopped. It's 4 somethings, and it is byes, didn't touch anything. So the price that you pay for having the keeper up to the stumps, and Bracey was able to get some glove on that, but not enough to prevent it from going to the boundary, and that means that Northamptonshire need under 100, 98 to win. Just the one slip as Williams bowls to McSweeney, and he's able to play that one from the crease in defence, and there's no run.
We've had it from the match referee that Luke Charlesworth is now actually on the field as an injury replacement for Gabe Bell.
There we go. So that's confirmed. The voice of Randall has confirmed that that is the case. So, yeah, Ian Randall, the public address announcer here at Bristol, confirming what Ed was saying a moment or two ago, that Luke Charlesworth is now fully fledged member of the side for this match. I suppose in an ideal world it would be Luke Charlesworth to Louis Kimber with 1 needed or something at the back end of the day. Here's Miles in bowls full and on leg stump to Conway, clips it out to mid-wicket, fielded by Hammond, and there's no run. Northamptonshire, of course, also having a concussion replacement, which is Louis Kimber in for Safe Zabe. Umpire Hassan Adnan borrowing Nathan McSweeney's bat, using the handle just to knock one of the stumps in a little bit further. Miles, the sun trying to come out, runs in and bowls outside the off stump, left alone by Harry Conway. This is, I mean, I know we always say about the fickleness of the British weather and running joke about forecasts and so on, but if you looked at the forecast yesterday, you would have thought we stand no chance of doing anything until way later in the day, you know, sort of tea time. But here we are, and I mean, I'm not saying that we will get through necessarily uninterrupted, but the sun doing its best to come out. A little bit of blue sky visible a moment or two ago, although that's disappeared from sight. Here's Miles in and bowls outside the off stump to Harry Conway, who leaves well alone. Goes through to James Bracey.
Yeah, certainly not a huge number of spectators in today, but then it wasn't going to be a full day's cricket anyway. But if you'd made any sort of plans on the basis of what the forecast suggested, then you wouldn't have been coming in. But it really did seem to change a matter of a few hours ago in terms of what they thought was going to happen.
Here's Miles in and bowls to Conway and clipped away down to long leg for another run, fielded by Will Williams, coming in off the boundary. One more to Conway. He goes 2-4. Northamptonshire to 152 for 5, needing another 97 to win.
First, we got lucky to miss the entire ugly band that is dousing South Wales and South Gloucestershire, and it really only has missed, and we can still see it. It really only missed us by about 4 or 5 miles, and then what was meant to close up, I think we've been protected by some sort of rain shadow of the Mendips.
Thank you.
Seemingly.
The erudition in this box. Here's Miles in bowls, and again on leg stump, very full, and turned by McSweeney this time for 1. Thought for a second about a second, but in the end they settle for the 1. Joe Phillips down on the boundary. So 1 more to McSweeney, 43 to him, 153 for 5. Batters confer with 1 ball left in the over. It's an interesting little tactical thing in between the two batters. Obviously, a night watchman last night would look to face as much of the bowling as possible. Obviously, a different story this morning as Miles is in bowls to Conway, and he's quite happy to take 1 off the last ball of the over. Did he get bat on it? Yes, he did. A little bit of bat and pad squeezed out on the onside. So 3 singles off the over for Northamptonshire. Conway is 5, McSweeney is 43, and Northamptonshire 154 for 5, requiring a further 95 runs to win. We lost 8 overs from the day's total, and it's academic at the moment. I suppose if we had a further interruption, of course, it could become, I mean, that would be, I suppose, ideal later in the day when you have the overs coming into it as well, just an added little factor. But at the moment, Northamptonshire have got 85 overs in which to get 95 runs. Similarly, Gloucestershire 88 overs to get 5 wickets.
Williams into Conway, searching delivery, which is defended by Conway into the offside. Speaking of overs, the other piece of news which we should bring you is about the over rates. So whilst Gloucestershire's over rate is at -1 at the moment, and Northamptonshire's ended the innings at -3, they had not reached the required net time for the over rate penalty to be applied. Please don't ask me any more than that. Williams in Conway, inside edge onto pad. He almost kicks the ball out to cover, and there's no run.
Yes, well, thanks to our scorers, Adrian Bull from Gloucestershire and Terry Owen from Northamptonshire, who've both been on the case and have both done their best to explain this to people like Ed and I, who were left scratching our heads slightly. But yes, the gist of it is, it's you only incur penalties if you bowl for longer than 8 hours net, and Northamptonshire did not bowl for 8 hours net.
Williams in, struck on the pad, gone LBW. That looked absolutely plumb. And Will Williams has struck for Gloucestershire. Harry Conway just playing across a straight one, and James Treadwell's fingers seem to be moving almost the moment that hit the pad. That is missing off, missing leg, and hitting middle. Looking at the replay, Conway goes for 5. And Northamptonshire are at 154 for 6, requiring 95 to win.
Yeah, I think we could give that from here, couldn't we? It looked very, very adjacent, and we'll have a look at the replay. But Williams bowls pretty straight anyway, and I think that's fair enough.
Yeah, I think that is the dictionary definition of plumb. Has a picture of where that ball struck Harry Conway.
Well, that's nice, and it's a very Harry Conway thing to do, in that Louis Kimber is going out to bat, and he made sure he had a little word with him, and word of encouragement, exhortation, whatever. But Louis Kimber, who would not have expected to be this time, well, just a little bit before this yesterday morning, would not have, I'm sure, have been expecting to be coming out to bat today in a fairly crucial stage of championship match, is now doing just that. I asked Luke Proctor about whether they'd thought of maybe putting him in a little bit higher, but they felt they wanted him in where he is, and maybe give him a... Interesting to see if he's been given any sort of license to possibly go and try and be aggressive, which obviously is his natural game. But of the recognised batting, there's only really Lewis McManus to come for Northamptonshire, and then Sanderson and Guthrie.
McManus has been a thorn in Gloucestershire's side in the past, but yeah, they've got to get rid of one of these two to get to him even, so... Williams bowling to Kimber for the first time outside off stump and barely even moves the bat, really. They all wait with bat raised these days, so you could pretty much just leave it there. No stroke. Keeper back to start with for Louis Kimber. So at the moment, Gloucestershire deciding if he is batting outside his crease that is okay. Williams's first wicket of the match, that is bowled very well and had something else to do in terms of opening the batting in Gloucestershire's second innings as Williams bowls fuller delivery and Kimber a bit out in front of that. Ends up playing it up to mid-on from wide of the off stump. But I'm sure that, especially in the absence of Bell, as we've been discussing, onus was on Williams, Miles and Taylor as the three senior bowlers remaining to be the ones to lead things, and Williams has got off to a good start. That's a single for Kimber to end the over, just guided off the outer part of the bat down to Craig Miles on the deep third boundary. So it's not a maiden, but Gloucestershire won't mind terribly, whilst every run could well be critical. It does mean that Kimber will be on strike for the next over, 155 for 6. They, of course, can't give up trying to get Nathan McSweeney out, but at the same time, whilst the early moisture is still there and the bowlers are fresh and the ball's the hardest that it's going to be, in its 50th over it will be soon, but I certainly want to bowl at Kimber at the moment.
Yep, Louis Kimber only played one championship match this year for Northamptonshire. That was the first game of the season against Lancashire. Made 33 off 31 in the first innings. Miles in bowls to him and he drives up to mid-off and there's no run. And then in the second innings was out very early for a single, but batting slightly ridiculously at number 10. Obviously there were night watchmen involved. And he was undone by James Anderson with a second new ball. Not the first, probably not the last to suffer that fate. And he's facing Craig Miles from the Ashley Down Road end, and Kimber defends. Again up to mid-off, and there's no run. Graham Van Buren scurrying about, as is his wont.
He has slightly curious memories of this ground, Louis Kimber, because he was given out obstructing the field here in 2023, but would have been given out handled the ball, where the law, not for some reason, changed.
Yes, that's right.
He just inexplicably, the ball bounced up off the pitch and he just sort of, well, he just touched it.
Here's Miles in short and pulled away by Louis Kimber. Just seeing if that's gone for 4 or 6. 4. Well, that's route 1 from Louis Kimber. It was short of a length, and he got into position and has pulled it away over mid-wicket. I must admit, I completely lost sight of the ball. That's why I was wondering whether it was 4 or 6, and the umpire was obviously just hesitating, but it's muscled that one away for 4. Takes him off, well, takes him to 5, and Northamptonshire to 159 for 6. 90 runs needed. Miles in, bowls down the leg side. Kimber doesn't get anything on that.
He did have some joy in the first innings with the short ball, Craig Miles, but I don't think there's that same bounce to get it up head height so easily in this second innings. There was certainly the feeling from both camps that the pitch had eased yesterday a little. Yeah,
Luke Proctor was saying he thought the effects of the roller had just deadened it a bit. He did feel that the first, and said on the record that he thought the degree of erratic bounce on the first couple of days was, in his words, excessive. His Miles in bowls outside the off stump short and bludgeoned through extra cover for 4 more. Kimber's second boundary, and he's playing the sort of innings that we wondered whether Northamptonshire might want him to play yesterday. Maybe there was a thought. I know some supporters who were contacting were saying, well, might it be an idea to put him in early, possibly, give him a bit of licence. If he gets 50 or 60 quickly, then it's almost sort of broken the back of the thing. Well, that's not how they've gone, but he's hit 2 boundaries already. 163 for 6. Northamptonshire needing 86 to win. Miles in bowl, short, very short, and he wasn't in control of that, but he swatted it away again over mid-wicket for 4. It got big on him, and he got underneath it, but fortunately for him, it went sufficiently in front of square that there was nobody in a position to catch it. So a third boundary for Louis Kimber. He's on 13, and Northamptonshire 167 for 6, needing 82 to win. Gloucestershire need those 4 wickets.
Yeah, potentially rather risky strategy bowling short at Kimber. As you say, I wasn't sure to start with. I did look at the replay, and yes, he didn't really know where it had gone, but at the same time, he's still got excellent connection. Williams into McSweeney, takes a hand off the bat, but controls it down into the ground, into the offside, and there's no run. McSweeney has really looked the picture of control in this innings. He's got 6 boundaries, but I don't think any of them have been a sort of boundary that you'd say like Kimber's there, where he's really attacking the bowling. He's just managed to accumulate runs somehow or other, and if they've happened to be boundaries, that's one thing, but most of his runs feel as though they've come like that, just turned through the leg side to deep backward square, and he moves on to 44, 168 for 6.
I was talking to Graham White this morning, former Northamptonshire and Nottinghamshire spinner, now on the member of the coaching team at Northamptonshire, and we just an interview largely about the T20 for the cricket show tonight on BBC Radio Northampton. But we were talking just before we sort of switched the microphone on about Nathan McSweeney, and he said he's a problem solver. He's an intelligent man, and he's a problem solver, and he sets himself little tasks.
Williams to Kimber, little veering onto middle and leg, and that's another run as it's flicked down to fine leg by Kimber, 169 for 6. They do have 2 fielders deep on the leg side for both McSweeney and Kimber. Bracey now standing up to both. It doesn't entirely remove the possibility of a bouncer being bowled, but again, it would be even more brave. I don't think they'll be bowling much short to McSweeney. He played a couple of authoritative pull shots. Oh, there's a close shout for LBW. The ball's come back in, but I'm just not quite sure if it's done enough. Yeah, Will Williams is signalling just outside the line. The only thing there was, as we look at the replay, I mean, he does just about play a defensive shot to that, but the bat was behind the pad, and then it went out in front of it. So it was that kind of
the old-fashioned hiding the bat. But
I think he tried to play a shot, but the pad got in the way.
But I think it was fair enough from James Treadwell. I think that was just outside the line.
Good decision. Probably was hitting the stumps, but outside the line. Williams to McSweeney, who's then followed up from the in-swinger with one that maybe even moves slightly away, which is quite often, especially with the older ball. He's beaten by it anyway, and Bracey takes. But with the older ball, that's often the delivery that Williams produces as the sort of the surprise when you think it's okay, he's not moving the ball anymore. All of a sudden, he'll produce this little away fader. Williams in to McSweeney, bowls. We just about got bat on that, and then they'll scramble through for a single. Again, the pad almost looked as if it was going to get in the way, but there's no fielder at square leg because they've got that man back on the boundary, so it is another run, 170 for 6. McSweeney keeps the strike. I think he did make contact with his pad again with his bat looking at the replay, but he also got the ball. And that one, I think if he'd missed that, that was much closer to being in line. So a good battle, some encouragement for Gloucestershire, but at the same time, they are seeing these runs more than ticking down. And they've got I was about to say, they've got a bit of a conundrum, and Matt Taylor, having not bowled yet today, you feel as though it probably had to be Taylor sooner rather than later from that Ashley Down road end, because if Miles wants to bowl short, then you'd think it would make much more sense for him to bowl from this end if he's comfortable to do so, because he's got the longer boundary. He could really challenge Kimber and say, as he did to Zabe and Proctor in the first innings, if you want to hit the ball over that long boundary, then you're going to have
a
to
go.
Yes, you're going to have to hit it very well. Kimber certainly can, but there would be that challenge there.
Well, Williams has been excellent this morning, and it was just rather nice to see him having a chat with Darren Lehman and Lee Daggett as they walked past him and having a bit of a laugh on both sides. Here's Taylor then, first ball of the morning, bowling to McSweeney. He pushes it up to mid-on, and there is no run.
Lovely, lovely man.
Lovely, lovely man. 170 for 6. Northamptonshire needing 79 more runs to win. Blue sky visible. Well, we really hadn't, that wasn't on my bingo card for Monday morning in Bristol, but it's very nice to see. Here's Taylor in again, bowls, and McSweeney defends out into the onside. Fielded at mid-wicket by Miles Hammond, and there's no run. Still just the one close catcher, Ollie Price in there at slip. They have a third man. Backward point, extra cover, mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket. And then a deep backward square and a long leg. That's Will Williams down on the boundary just to our left. We do have a little bit of watery sunshine bathing the ground. And still, it's a brave individual who says with any certainty which way this one is going to go. Here's Taylor in again, bowls and outside the off stump. Left alone by Nathan McSweeney. His 118th delivery. 45 not out. Louis Kimber gone in at number 8. Having come in yesterday as replacement for Safe Save. He's already hit 3 boundaries, 14 off 10 balls. For the former Leicestershire man, who will obviously be an integral part of Northamptonshire's T20 side. On Friday, here's Taylor round the wicket, bowls to McSweeney, who nudges it again away just in front of square on the leg side. Joe Phillips out on the boundary, comes into field. One more run to McSweeney. He goes to 46. And Northamptonshire to 171 for 6.
Again, there's that conundrum for Bancroft in terms of looking at the runs equation, and I suppose McSweeney's got to play 4 of those shots to every one he might get to the boundary, but what point do you think you just need to stem the flow of singles when especially there might well be plenty of boundaries coming from the other end with the way that Kimber plays?
27 runs added this morning by Northamptonshire. Taylor round the wicket, bowls to Kimber, who on the back foot just drops it down into the crease next to him. This time he doesn't try and pick it up. Once bitten, twice shy. If you're just joining us, we started at 11:30 this morning. Umpire's inspection before the start gave us, I think, much cause for optimism, and they went back on almost as just a formality at 11 to decide that we could start at 11:30. We've been extremely fortunate for the second day running in missing a lot of fairly unpleasant weather not too far away. Whether we'll miss it all throughout the day, of course, remains to be seen. Here's Taylor in again, bowling to Kimber, who on drives crisply, but nicely fielded at mid-on, and that's the end of Matt Taylor's first over. Just the single off it, 171 for 6. McSweeney is 46. Kimber is 14. Northamptonshire require a further 78 runs to win. And, well, Surrey supporters will not be enjoying their Monday morning hugely, I think, at the moment, because Surrey, following on against Yorkshire at Headingley, are 115 for 8. So they still need a further 167 to make Yorkshire bat again, with just 2 wickets standing.
Yes,
carnage.
it's extraordinary. Harry Brook, 3 for 11 yesterday evening, and Jack White now has 3 for 27, so they have been, well, decimated, Surrey, and it's going to be a significant dent to their title hopes. And extraordinarily, I mean, Essex, who were absolutely nowhere, it won't last, but as it stands at the table, Essex are top because they've got the same number of points as Nottinghamshire, but they've won 3 matches. Very much an open season for once, as Williams is in now to McSweeney, targeting the stumps, and McSweeney defends.
Yeah, Nottinghamshire, I know, would fancy their chances against Hampshire down at Southampton, but the rain has not stayed away from Southampton. Hampshire 97 for 5 against Notts, which means they're 82 runs ahead with 5 wickets standing, but they're off for rain there.
Could be an exciting one later on.
Yeah.
Ben Brown was out this morning, but Jake Lehman still guiding the ship for Hampshire as Williams bowls well down the leg side. Excellent take from Bracey.
What a lovely bit of keeping.
Gosh. And then just immediate move back to the stumps, all muscle memory, I suppose, but it is quite something to behold. It was much further down the leg side than the one that just went off his fingertips, but just about kept that one in his glove. Somerset came into the day at Taunton needing 12 Sussex wickets. They've already got 3 of them. As Sussex are 39 for 1, following on behind by 234 runs. They've got rid of Tom Haynes for 5. They wrapped up the first Sussex innings in a short period of time this morning as Williams is in now. McSweeney defends once more out to the leg side. There is a leg gully, I suppose. It's again, it's second leg slip, so take your pick, but there is a catcher behind square on the leg side somewhere. So they are, I suppose, seeing whether McSweeney fancies a flick round the corner. Would be quite some way to go, but give it a try. Williams bowls again. It's down the leg side, and Williams yelps, but not sure whether that was because he thought it was close to leg stump or because he was worried that that might be another set of 4 byes that Gloucestershire probably can't afford too many of, with 78 required. But no runs yet from this over, and as he always seems to, Williams, his economy rate is now under 3 and over. As he bowls now on a lengthened turned leg side to Luke Charlesworth at a forward square position, and there's no run.
To be honest, I'm surprised he's gone for as many as he has. He's been absolutely on the money this morning. He's been superb.
It's amazing how his first few overs, you sort of think, oh, maybe this is the innings that he's not going to do it. Maybe this is the innings he goes for 4 and over or something, and then he just continues to drag that economy rate further down and still produce testing deliveries like that McSweeney can do nothing but defend, but defends well back to the bowler, and that's a maiden from Williams, 1 for 46. Northamptonshire then remain 171 for 6. Now they are playing today at Beckenham, and Ben Stokes is batting, so of course that should be what everybody is watching. Stokes is on 25 and Aldridge 25, so they lost 6 Durham, but even though Kent are going to come away with a significant moral victory there and continue their good run of form, it seems rather unlikely that they will take 14 Durham wickets from here.
Taylor round the wicket, bowling to Louis Kimber outside the off-stump. Kimber leaves well alone. Again, Darren Lehman is one of those, and I'm sure probably many coaches are the same, but he's always looking for leaders, likes to see people that are prepared to stand up, put their arm up and be counted, and that he feels have the qualities required. And I know Louis Kimber is one who he feels, he actually said to me in an interview recently that he could captain the club now, which is interesting considering it's only his 2nd championship appearance. Here's Taylor bowls to Kimber, plays it out to extra cover, and there's no run. But which he's not suggesting that he's going to come in and take over from Luke Proctor or anything. The point he was making was that he has the qualities required as a leader. I know he feels very much the same about Justin Broad, who Northamptonshire will hope very much is going to be fit for the start of the Blast. I haven't seen him in the Championship so far, as he hasn't been able to bowl. But he has been playing for the second team as a batsman. And I think Calvin Harrison as well is another one that maybe Northamptonshire will look to in the future as a potential leader. Here's Taylor round the wicket, outside the off stump, left alone by Kimber. I'm just looking forward to Luke Charlesworth bowling to Kimber. The two, dear sir, is this a record? Has this ever happened before when you actually got two replacements in direct opposition? I'm sure you
have it, but whether I'm not sure it wasn't actually technically the same because it wasn't concussion replacement facing injury replacement. We did have that, and I believe I was informed that it was the first time that it had happened when Craig Miles bowled to Lewis Rees in the game at Derbyshire 2 rounds ago.
Here's Taylor in and bowls, and straight drive by Kimber, but very well fielded off his own bowling by Matt Taylor, who's in his 14th over, 2 for 21, picked up the wickets yesterday of Luke Proctor and big one, Calvin Harrison. And he was just starting to threaten yesterday, Harrison, got to 35 and then very well caught low down at first slip by Ollie Price.
No, I can tell you that Dave Fletcher was, as you'd imagine, giddy with excitement when Craig Miles bowled to Lewis Rees.
Here's Taylor in again, bowls to Kimber, drives beautifully through extra cover for 4. Extra cover, Cameron Bancroft is fairly tight in there, looking to stop the single. There is also a mid-off, and Kimber managing to thread it through the gap between the two of them. And it's raced away for 4. He goes to 18. Northamptonshire to 175 for 6, needing another 74 runs to win. Lunch, if you're thinking along those lines, and we always do up here, is scheduled for 1:30.
Certainly when it's scheduled to be pie and chips.
Absolutely. Can't wait. 175 for 6. Here's Taylor. What's his response? Bowls, and well, it's the same again. This time from Kimber, he's driven it for 4. This time it was a little bit squarer. It was between cover and extra, but the outcome was the same. Found the gap and it's gone for 4. Kimber's 5th boundary in 22. Northamptonshire 179 for 6. Needs 70 more runs to win. Gloucestershire still need 4 wickets. And Williams will continue, and he has been, well, head and shoulders the best of the bowlers, I think, in certainly this morning and for a good part of yesterday as well.
Well, I think what Gloucestershire would love is Williams to Kimber, because so far Kimber has been provided with some width outside the off stump and some short length from the Ashley Down Road end to play his shots to him. The first of those was a half volley. The second of them, I mean, it was a fantastic shot. Williams in McSweeney hops across and defends leg side where Bancroft fields, and it in a way, if you had more runs to play with, or it was a different situation, I think you'd see the second of those boundaries might be the sort of delivery that you'd see the slip cordon actually clapping, but they're in a position, Gloucestershire, where they can't, and they certainly don't want to see too many more of those. So Williams bowling gun barrel straight as he tends to, might be what they'd want. Oh, he strikes McSweeney on the pad. He's got him, LBW. Will Williams has his 2nd wicket of the morning. It looked pretty straight. James Treadwell raises the finger, and that is a massive wicket. It's not that McSweeney was exactly taking the game away from Gloucestershire in terms of runs, because he only added 5 runs today, but he was just that steadying presence at the other end that everybody else could potentially play around. And Williams has just got one to straighten. He's pinned him on the pad. And it's yet another Williams wicket that's either bowled or LBW. He just continues to find ways through people's defences. He was constantly challenging McSweeney when he was bowling at him in the previous couple of overs. He's found a way through, and Northamptonshire are 179 for 7, requiring 70 to win.
Yeah, that is just what Northamptonshire didn't want, and in a sense, it just proves when Will Williams is bowling like this, what a simple game it can be. And if you bowl straight and just doing enough with it, then the chances are even the very good players, and I think McSweeney would go into that category, are going to find it difficult. And he had a couple of shouts that were, well, one in particular that was not a million miles away, and has tested and teased McSweeney this morning, and it's not a huge surprise to see him. If he missed one, he was going to be struggling basically because he's bowling so straight, and we were talking about this yesterday. So it's a superb bit of bowling from Will Williams, and it means now that Northamptonshire have their last two recognised batters out there, Louis Kimber and Lewis McManus, with Sanderson and Guthrie to come. And the balance that was perhaps just swinging a little bit in Northamptonshire's favour, I would suggest, has perhaps just swung a bit the other way. 70 runs needed, 3 wickets required for Gloucestershire, and a second slip going in.
And I suppose it asks the question of Kimber as well.
Yeah, is he
Can
going
you
to carry
continue
on?
to play your shots with such freedom without having the security, I suppose, of McSweeney at the other end? I suspect he'll keep going, but we'll see. McManus it is to face, and Williams in to bowl to him down the leg side. Another sharp take from Bracey. Williams had his hands clasped behind his head for a moment. I thought he might have thought there was a nick on that, but I don't think so. He's an extraordinary bowler, Will Williams. I mean, he's plied his trade in this country at Old Trafford for the majority of his career, and we know how unforgiving and slow and lacking in seam movement those pitches can be. Williams in to McManus, one of the only deliveries he's bowled today that wasn't hitting the stumps and missing wide of off, but left alone by McManus. But his wicket-taking record is just so consistent wherever he's been, whether it has been back in New Zealand for Canterbury or for Lancashire, and now joining here at Gloucestershire.
Say again, Ed, it's a simple game.
It is.
Bowl straight,
but
get people out.
He just seems to have this way, though, of getting the ball to move ever so subtly.
Yeah, just enough.
Yeah. Williams in and bowls. There's another one of those that is boring in on the stumps. McManus gets down to defend. Nothing else that he can do. And as ever, he sort of starts to get into his late teens, mid-teens in terms of overs, and you just feel he seems to get better in that sort of spell. He just seems to get better the more overs that he bowls. In he comes now, back of a length this time. McManus in line and blocking off the back foot, so follows up a maiden over with a wicket maiden over. Now has 2 for 46, and Bancroft will not want to take him off. It'd be like when, we discussed with the likes of Sanderson when he's been in a spell. He just won't want to make that change. But there is going to be a change from the Ashley Down Road end. Luke Charlesworth is going to have his first bowl of 2026 in the first team. As I say, he didn't play in the Championship last season. He's had a lot of injuries in his career. He's played just 3 Championship matches, 1 T20 match, but that was against, well, effectively Sri Lanka A. Here did play in a T20 against the New Zealanders as well, so he's not bowled actually on this ground that much. One of his 3 Championship matches on this ground, otherwise a couple of second team games here, and that's it.
Well, replacement to replacement. Luke Charlesworth to Louis Kimber. The first ball is clipped away by Kimber down to deep backward square. Joe Phillips fields, and there's one more run to Kimber. He goes to 23, Northamptonshire to 180 for 7, 69 runs required. I actually quite like this from looking at it from just a tactical point of view, because you've got a new batter in there, and it's perhaps not a bad time, because McManus is probably thinking, I'm going to have to play the McSweeney role for Northamptonshire, which he's more than capable of doing. And it's probably not a bad time to get a relatively inexperienced bowler, as you just outlined, into the attack. I think it's good thinking from Cameron Bancroft. Here's Charlesworth in bowls, and McManus pushing forward, goes off the inner portion of the bat out into the leg side, and he picks up a single to get off the mark. 181 for 7, 68 runs required. The sunshine has gone, at least for now. That is a meteorological reference, by the way. I'm not suggesting in any abstract way that now Nathan McSweeney has gone. Sunshine has gone as far as Northamptonshire are concerned. Here's Charlesworth in and bowls, and cut away by Louis Kimber. He's going to get runs. Don't think it's going to go all the way for 4. There's a chase on and reeled in just inside the rope. They're going to come back for 3. So Kimber goes to 26, Northamptonshire to 184 for 7.
And running, I mean, it's Hammond throwing, so, you know, he's got a strong arm, but it is such a long way out there that they really did pretty much take one on the arm.
65 to win, 3 wickets to win. An hour and 10 minutes to go until pies. Here's Charlesworth. In, bowls to McManus, who plays slightly across his front pad, goes out to mid-wicket, and there's no run.
He's a strong young man, is Luke Charlesworth, 23 years of age. And
one of the Oxfordshire Charlesworths, I believe.
He is, yes. But yeah, he's had a really frightful time with, as sadly so many young fast bowlers have done, with stress fractures at the back.
Well, here he is, running into bowl to Lewis McManus, and good ball from Luke Charlesworth. And all McManus can do is treat it with the respect it deserves and play it back down the pitch. 184 for 7.
It was a great moment in his first-class debut, which he made at Grace Road, when he picked up his first-class wicket of Rishi Patel, edged and caught by brother Ben at first slip.
That's nice. Here's Charlesworth. And again to bowl to McManus down the leg side. Good take by James Bracey, and that's the end of Luke Charlesworth's first over. Conceded 5 runs, 184 for 7. Northamptonshire needs 65 more runs to win. Yorkshire need 1 wicket to win now. Surrey 120 for 9 at Headingley, following on. So the last pair is going to have to score 162 if Yorkshire are going to have to bat again. Calypso. And the second wicket for Matt Revis. And Jordan Clark and Matt Fisher standing between Surrey and Dan Worrell, rather, standing between Surrey and a serious pasting up at Headingley.
I think an awful lot of rain to come to their rescue there. Williams continuing his bowling to Kimber on a length. Kimber drops it down into the offside square of the wicket. Price, energetic, comes out from slip to do the fielding. The other match, which is rapidly approaching its conclusion, is at Lords, where at Middlesex were dismissed for 320 by Derbyshire. Nick Potts taking the last couple of wickets for Derbyshire there, and they're 20 without loss, needing a further 102 to win. Williams bowls to Kimber, defended straight. Williams tumbles all over the middle of the pitch, and then, I better get off now. Just dances off it. You're perfectly entitled to field the ball, but he did have a good roll around there as he fielded it. He does enjoy himself, does Will Williams, and why wouldn't you when you can bowl as he is at the moment? Be warming to his work. He'll be testing forward defence of Kimber here. In and bowls, and the forward defence passes that particular examination from Will Williams. He guides it out to point. And there is no run. Glamorgan 250, 260 all out. They've just been bowled out by Warwickshire, so they've set Warwickshire 369 to win at Edgbaston. A 5-wicket haul for Ethan Bamber, but another 100 for the evergreen Colin Ingram. Williams to Kimber, defended so firmly, he might almost get a run there, but no. Scrambling Bancroft, almost doing the front crawl at mid-on, and he stopped it. For a moment, I thought, is that really Bancroft? He's fielding at mid-on now. He's popping up all over the place, and he just got across. It almost hit the non-striker actually as he was attempting to get back, and then he's swimming along through custard there was Bancroft.
We were talking about interpretive dance yesterday. I think it was like channeling his inner crab there, wasn't it? It was remarkable.
Williams to Kimber. Playing slightly away from his body there, but he gets bat on ball and plays it into the ground out to backward point. It was the bat coming away from him that interested Will Williams. The only thing is, though, that Gloucestershire still only have the one slip, so they are asking for the perfect edge, especially with the keeper up to the stumps. If Williams gets Kimber to play away from his body again. The last ball of this over, in now and bowling, and turned gently to mid-wicket by Kimber, and that is, yeah, he's done it again. It's another maiden. Another immaculate over from Williams, but this time the defences hold, and Kimber showing that he's not just about bashing the ball to the boundary. He is willing to bed in when he has to. 65 more required, 3 wickets for Gloucestershire.
Well, Williams is going off the field, so maybe that will be the end of this extremely impressive spell. Ed Middleton is on the field, fielding down at long leg. So Williams so far, 19 overs, 6 maidens, 2 for 46. Will that be it for now from Williams? We'll see. Here's Luke Charlesworth running into bowl. Very full on leg stump to McManus, who clips it up to mid-wicket where Craig Miles fields, and there is no run. So Matt Taylor is limbering up at mid-on, so maybe Taylor from this end.
Yeah, I did wonder whether they might switch ends after a short spell from that Ashley Down Road end. Doesn't tend to mind too much, I think, which end he bowls from here, Matt Taylor. I mean, there isn't a massive difference.
Here's Charlesworth. In, bowls to McManus, who defends off a mixture of inside edge and pad. Drops down into the offside. Fielded by Cameron Bancroft, coming in from cover. Still just the one slip, third man. Backward point, extra cover, mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket, deep backward square. And Ed Middleton down there doing a few knee bends.
Some of that hair dye's washed away.
Down on the long leg boundary. Here's Charlesworth in, bowls to McManus, who defends. Back down the pitch, and there is no run. McManus this year's 276 championship runs, averaging round 50, including 1 century. Remarkable for a player of McManus's ability. He's only actually made 3 first-class hundreds, which is surprising. 1 for Hampshire very early on in his career, best part of a decade ago. Here's Charlesworth in, bowls to him and clipped away by McManus out to deep square for a single. McManus goes to 2, Northamptonshire to 185 for 7, 64 to win. Then he got one a couple of years ago at Cardiff. Went big, 168 not out on that occasion, and then obviously won this year.
suppose it's always the thing batting down the order, isn't it?
Yeah.
You must have batted even at 8 sometimes. The number of times that you get
frequently.
You don't get the opportunity to finish an innings off.
Charlesworth in bowls to Kimber, who goes for a rather expansive drive. It takes the inside edge onto the pad and drops down into the onside for Miles to come in and field. But Kimber not holding back.
He doesn't sell himself short, does he, when he decides to go for it? But there was a massive gate there. Just about
almost double gate, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was bigger than the Charlie Poole gates at Northampton.
We can hear you, Mr. Thomas.
Here's Charlesworth in again to bowl to Kimber, and Kimber defends this time out into the offside. Bancroft comes in from cover. Applause around the ground for Luke Charlesworth. And as we said yesterday, not a big crowd in by any stretch of the imagination, but those that are here certainly thoroughly invested in this absorbing contest. 185 for 7 Northamptonshire at the end of the over. They need 64 more runs to win, and Gloucestershire need 3 wickets. And we are indeed going to see a change of bowling at this pavilion end.
Yep, as forecast, the end switch for Matt Taylor.
Bristol pavilion end with the switch of ends for number 36, Matt Taylor.
But as I said, really, the only difference in terms of bowling from one end or the other, or difference is it's more wind direction and dimensions of the field in terms of the fact that this pitch it's pretty central, but because the boundary's pushed all the way back to the mound stand, it's much longer out to that side, where Gloucestershire have put 2 fielders out in the deep, so Taylor might well try the odd short delivery, but he's continuing with this left arm round attack, bowling to McManus, plays round that front pad, turns it to mid-wicket, and no run. So McManus more taking on the McSweeney role to start with, 2 off 13. Certainly there is no desperate hurry from a Northamptonshire point of view. There's no immediate hurry from a Gloucestershire point of view either, as Taylor is in bowls. McManus defends slightly. Well, it wasn't quite half-heartedly, but it wasn't a rigid defence. The ball squeezes off into the onside, but he does keep it out. I did have a little glance at the radar, and it's extraordinary. The rain seems to be hitting the city and stopping.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
It's coming from the southwest. As Taylor is in, McManus works to leg once more. No run, fielded by Hammond. But it's as though there's this invisible wall around the city limits that the dark forces cannot break through.
Bristol city limits, as Tina Turner almost sang.
It's like you sort of got Albus Dumbledore to put a magic wall around the city that the rain can't get through. Taylor in, and that's defended by McManus into the offside, and there is no run. Similar thing seems to be happening with Cardiff. It hasn't rained anywhere near as much in Cardiff as it has almost everywhere else. So we are getting so fortunate here, because I was tracking that band of rain that seemed to be coming our way, and I thought by now we must surely get it, and so far we continue to get remarkably lucky with the weather. Taylor into McManus, again rolling the wrists and working it into the onside, so Taylor has very much resumed the line of attack from Will Williams bowling at those stumps. Gloucestershire felt seemingly quite early on, even though they took a few early wickets, they seemed to feel quite early on in that Sales McSweeney partnership especially, that the edges were not really carrying. They're still down to that one slip. Taylor bowls full, turned away sharply into the leg side, and an excellent piece of fielding from Miles Hammond, sprawling away to his left at short mid-wicket, and that's another maiden over from this pavilion end. That's got to be 4 in a row at least. And the score remains 185 for 7. The target 249, and Sanderson and Guthrie the batting to come after these two, and Williams has just returned to the field, so Ed Middleton will depart.
Early lunch being taken at Southampton, where Hampshire 97 for 5 against Nottinghamshire. 82 runs ahead. Notts will be very keen to get on there this afternoon, I'm sure. Here's Luke Charlesworth running into bowl to Louis Kimber. Clips it uppishly, and there was a dive at mid-wicket, and it's beaten the fielder. It's run away for 4. It was in the air. If the fielder is in there at mid-wicket had been a more orthodox mid-wicket rather than in there tight, he might have had a better chance of catching it. Craig Miles in there, fell heavily. Hopefully he's okay. But it's 4 more to Kimber, who goes to 30. And Northamptonshire to 189 for 7, needing 60 to win. Now slip has gone out for Kimber, and Miles is going to a more orthodox mid-wicket. And now Ollie Price is going in at the catching mid-wicket. And Kimber responds with a straight drive back down the ground for 4 off Luke Charlesworth. I would suggest shot of the morning. That was a magnificent shot all along the carpet. Down back past the bowler for 4. So back-to-back boundaries for Louis Kimber, who's continuing to take scoring opportunities where they present themselves. He goes to 34. 193 for 7. Northamptonshire needing 56. Here's Charlesworth. Into bowl to Kimber, who's clipped that away for 4 more, or has it gone all the way for 6? It's gone all the way for 6, over mid-wicket. Joe Phillips is down there on the boundary, and that has gone into the car park. Actually, rather dangerously close to mine. And the gentleman has retrieved it from the hedge that separates this ground from the back gardens in Kennington Road.
Yeah, well,
6 to Kimber. He goes to 40 off 31 balls. 199 for 7. Northamptonshire need 50.
this is quite the innings, and he is getting some deliveries to pick off, but taking maximum advantage. And
Well,
now they've got to put another fielder back there. They've got to plug some gaps.
3 out on the leg side as Charlesworth bowls to Kimber, who drives up to mid-on, who's now fairly deep, respectfully deep. And this time there is no run. So Lancashire, I'm not playing Lancashire. Gloucestershire now have long leg, deep square, deep mid-wicket, all 3 on the boundary. Mid-on and mid-off, both fairly deep. They still have Ollie Price in there and a catching short mid-wicket. Here's Charlesworth. In again. Bowls to Kimber, and he drives back down the pitch. It was very full, and Kimber had to jam down on it, and I thought he'd have done his bat not a great deal of good.
It was an explosion of dust. He's
It
certainly got
was.
plenty of pitch as well.
I must admit, for a split second, I thought it might even have got through him, but it didn't. But yeah, it's dust flying in all directions.
It's just a question of whether once the puff
Yes,
of
once
dust
the puff of
had
dust had-
gone,
yes.
were the stumps going to be intact?
Mirage. Last ball of the over. Charlesworth in and bowls to Kimber, who drives up to mid-off. There will not be a run there, and that is the end of the over. Good comeback from Luke Charlesworth, having gone for 14 in his first 3 balls. Northamptonshire 199 for 7. Kimber is 40. McManus is 2. The target for Northamptonshire, another 50 runs.
Yeah, it's tough for Luke Charlesworth. He's not bowled really even, I think, a massive amount in the second 11 this year, and then he's thrown in. Well, he's thrown in not potentially just at the deep end, but he's thrown in with a few sharks swimming around as well, because this is a tricky situation to be bowling in when you've spent a long time on the sidelines, weren't even expecting really to play today. I have no idea when he would have found out that he needed to bowl. Taylor into McManus, and he's on target, off stump, but defended by McManus to extra cover. So yeah, I kind of feel for him a bit, really.
Oh, absolutely, no.
You know that anything that's slightly off, Kimber's clearly seeing it well, troublingly well for Gloucestershire, and as you say, he was able to finish with 3 pretty much Yorkers, and Kimber had to keep those out. But yeah, issues for Gloucestershire with no Bell able to bowl, already down in terms of their seam quota, as Taylor's into McManus, who motions as though that one shot along the floor. It certainly didn't seem to come through to him. It seemed to stop in the pitch a little bit, but quite sure whether it was as mischievous a delivery as all that. But anyway, he's defended it anyway. But this was, I suppose, the thing coming into the season, was that behind, well, I suppose Matt Taylor, who was one of the only ones to stay from last year, as Taylor bowls, McManus opens the face and pushes out to point, and there's no run. Matt Taylor pretty much was the only one of the senior seamers to stay. Then the signings of Bell, Williams and Miles, but behind that, there's a few younger, possibly slightly more raw bowlers who were also injured at the start of the season. So Gloucestershire have found themselves in a position where they've got to call on somebody who's probably a little bit undercooked, albeit I'm sure really wanting to grasp the opportunity. McManus push drives back towards Taylor, who knocks it down in his follow through, and again there's no run. This extraordinary run of dots from the pavilion end continues.
Well, Craig Miles appears to be limbering up, so maybe Cameron Bancroft will pull Luke Charlesworth out of the firing line, possibly get Miles back on from the far end.
Doesn't have too many other places to go.
No,
I mean, it would be very brave to go to spin in this situation as well, with Kimber striking it as he is. Taylor to McManus, and for a moment I thought we were going to see a run from this end, but still no. McManus tried to guide it past backward point, too close to Craig Miles though.
Yes, the spin shout would be like in Yes Minister, when they always used to say about a courageous decision, which was absolutely what everybody tried to avoid. Courageous was another way of saying something that might have negative consequences. So I think it's rather similar here. May prove to be an absolute masterstroke, but not that many runs to play with.
Taylor, last ball of this over to McManus, back of a length, and back into his crease to defend McManus, and yet another maiden. Matt Taylor settling in quickly as he had to from this pavilion end. 16 overs, 4 maidens, 2 for 39. His figures for this innings. 7 wickets in the match. He actually doesn't have a 10 for, so there's that particular carrot for him, but I won't be thinking about that at all. It'll just be a case of for the team and all that sort of thing.
Team first.
Exactly.
As we thought, Craig Miles is going to come back into the attack, replacing Luke Charlesworth from the Ashley Down Road end, bowling to Louis Kimber. 199 for 7, 50 runs needed for Northamptonshire. And Miles running in to bowl to Kimber outside the off stump. Kimber leaves it alone through to James Bracey. Must mention, actually, the very sad news that's broken this morning of the death of MJK Smith, Mike Smith. Was a fixture at Edgbaston for many years, and played, I remember, in the first Ashes test I ever sort of took a serious interest in back in 1972, when England brought him back when he was 40 for the first 3 games of that series. But a wonderful cricketer, rugby international as well, of course, as Miles is in bowls and driven away by Kimber, and that's 4 more. Again, they've got the close in mid-wicket, and once it's got past him, And it's pretty much a clear run to the boundary, and that's what's happened. It brings up the 200 for Northamptonshire. And Louis Kimber, well, he's making an impact. But Northamptonshire will need him to make rather more of an impact, but 44 not out he is. 203 for 7, 46 to win.
You just can't have them everywhere. and also, I mean, the speed that he's hitting them at, he's able to find really quite small gaps anyway, and, you know, short of putting everybody back on the boundary, even if they did that, you'd think he could hit it that hard and he'd find some gaps.
He's putting another one back. He's now got long on back on the boundary, so there are 4 fielders now on the boundary or near the boundary. In fact, he's just coming in a few paces on the leg side as Miles is in and bowls to Kimber, who looks to force it away, I think, on the offside, and it just comes across it a little bit and goes off a thick inside edge out to Price. Tight in there at mid-wicket.
It's been about the only shot that he hasn't thumped off the middle of the bat. A couple of inside edges when he's looked to play that not quite back foot drive, but not the full-on front foot drive.
Miles turning at the far end in his 11th over, in and bowls to Kimber, who drives. Now, has that gone to hand? It was driven fiercely by Kimber. It's a sprawling effort at extra cover. I thought it just landed in front of Cameron Bancroft. Craig Miles was hands on head. I with you, I think it just didn't quite get there. Nevertheless, it was an anxious moment for Louis Kimber.
Yeah, and I suppose that would have vindicated the decision to put fielders in more defensive positions, because he's clearly still going to play the shots anyway.
Miles tries again, bowls to Kimber. Kimber defends. Out into the offside. Bancroft in from cover to field, and there is no run. But MJK, I know, scored, I think, 4 first-class centuries against Northamptonshire. Had a long career, both as a player, of course, as an administrator, as a commentator. Did some work for the BBC back in the 80s. Great man of cricket, and age of 92. Passing of MJK. Here's, oh my goodness, up in the air, chipped by Kimber, dangerously close to Price again in that short mid-wicket position, but it eludes him this time, though, because there is some protection on the boundary. Kimber just gets a single, but he's living a little dangerously. Too dangerously for my blood pressure. 204 for 7. Northamptonshire at the end of the over. 45 they need. Kimber is 45. McManus is 2.
See, I don't know whether those sorts of close but not quite, whether that makes you think as a batter, well, it's my day, or whether it makes you think, oh, it just, you know, just tenses you up a bit and makes another one more likely. I've no idea. I suppose it depends on the individual, possibly.
Yes, I think this, although as we were saying, I think during the previous game, we were talking about cricketing superstitions, and cricketers do tend to be a fairly superstitious lot, and there is certainly many of them do have this feeling that, yeah, today's my day.
Taylor to continue. Now there's nobody in the slip cordon. There's still the 2 fielders deep on the onside, but a deep third and a deep cover as well. Price at short extra, Bancroft at short mid-wicket. Taylor bowls, and Kimber just a prod really out to Craig Miles at point.
Yorkshire have beaten Surrey by an innings and 127 runs at Headingley. Surrey all out.
In terms of defeats, that's got to be in terms of Yorkshire, Surrey over the years.
I think so. Surrey,
battles they've had.
Surrey all out for 155 in their second innings.
It's got to be up there. George Hill taking the final wicket. Taylor in and bowls, and Kimber runs this down to deep third. So if their sole aim almost now is to get Kimber off strike, I don't think that is their sole aim, but starting to wonder whether they might just bowl at McManus. I'm going to get McManus back on, and that must be the first run from the pavilion end for about half an hour, maybe longer.
Maybe longer, I would have thought.
So slip back in for McManus. Taylor bowls to him, he beats him with a ball that was coming in and then straightening and moving away, I think even more so than just straightening. I haven't seen a huge amount of that in terms of movement off the pitch, but that one did go and yeah, went quickly on McManus, but no outside edge. And McManus must be thinking, well, why am I getting this delivery? Why can't I have some what Kimber seems to be getting? Fuller ball on, driven by McManus. Won't beat Will Williams at mid-on. And there's no run there either. 44 to win. This really is another absorbing match. We've had 3 games here at Bristol where sides have been chasing relatively low totals, and it's been nip and tuck as we welcome in those listening on 5 Sports Extra, with Northamptonshire 205 for 7. Taylor bowling to McManus, forward blocking. Ball trickles up to Will Williams at mid-on, and there's no run. Northamptonshire started the day on 144 for 5, and they lost Nathan McSweeney and the night watchman Harry Conway, the 2 not-out batters overnight, both trapped LBW by Will Williams. But there's been so many storylines and bits of intrigue in this match here as Taylor is into McManus, head over the ball defending, and there's no run. So 205 for 7. Gloucestershire need 3 wickets. Northamptonshire need 44 runs. Gloucestershire, well, they're not down a bowler because they've had an injury replacement, but this was not something that we knew until pretty much moments before the start of today, which we were lucky to start at all with the terrible weather forecast overnight. Somehow we're still playing. But we saw Luke Charlesworth marking his run-up, and there is no Gabe Bell for Gloucestershire, which is a serious blow given that he was Gloucestershire's leading wicket-taker until I think Will Williams has gone back and overtaken him.
Miles starting his 12th over, bowling to Louis Kimber, who turns the ball off his hip into the leg side. He'll have to hurry as he goes through for a sharp single. And a super bit of fielding by Ollie Price, tight in there at mid-wicket. And Kimber was just treading water a little, but he got the hammer down eventually and completes the single. He goes to 47. 206 for 7. Northamptonshire, they need 43 more runs to win. Gloucestershire needs 3 wickets. It is, as Ed says, an absolutely enthralling contest. And lunch scheduled for 1:30. And for Miles to bowl to McManus, well, the field understandably a little more attacking. They have a slip in now. Ollie Price. They have Bancroft has put himself in at that leg gully position, backward square, where he caught James Sales last night in another key moment in this match. Here's Miles in, bowls to McManus, who defends into the onside, fielded there by Luke Charlesworth. But we had the interesting spectacle of the 2 replacements. Luke Charlesworth, who, as Ed explained, came in for Gabe Bell today, and Louis Kimber, who came in for Saif Zabe yesterday as a concussion replacement, in direct opposition. And Kimber hitting 14 runs off 3 balls from Luke Charlesworth before Charlesworth finished the over with 3 dots. Here's Miles in and bowls to McManus, pushes it out into the covers, where Joe Phillips, the substitute fielder, is stationed. The weather, well, we've just got away with so much. Just a half an hour delay this morning for the loss of 8 overs. There is still a lot of cloud around. There's still quite a lot of rain around. But so far, we've managed to avoid it here in Bristol this morning, and it would just be 1,000 pities if this game was not able to reach its natural conclusion one way or the other. Here's Miles in, bowls outside the off stump, left alone by McManus, through to James Bracey. Williams was superb this morning, wasn't he? It was
He was,
terrific spell from this pavilion end. And there was and it was so well as Nathan McSweeney played, there was just a sort of element of inevitability with the way he got out, because he'd survived a couple of close shaves, one decent appeal for LBW, one that he just managed to get an inside edge on, which I think if he hadn't, he'd have been walking back. And in the end, Williams got his man, his Miles, in and bowls to McManus, turns it away to the right hand of Bancroft, or the left hand, I should say, land of Bancroft at backward square, and they come through for a single. McManus to 3, Northamptonshire to 207 for 7, 42 to win. We were saying last night when Northamptonshire were, 143 for 4. If they'd gone in at that point, then I think probably they would have started today favourites, but James Sales getting out just before the close, caught by Bancroft in that leg gully position. Here's Miles into bowl to Louis Kimber, short, and Kimber flashes hard. There is no slip, and it goes down to third man for 4, and that brings Louis Kimber his half century, 50 off 44 balls with 1 6 and 9 4s, so he hasn't done a huge amount of running. But well, will this be the story, we wonder? Will it be Louis Kimber, the replacement, seeing Northamptonshire home? Will it even possibly be Luke Charlesworth, the Gloucestershire replacement, bowling his side to victory? Who knows? Watch this space. 211 for 7 at the end of the over. Northamptonshire needs 38 to win.
I don't think a slip would have caught that,
No,
even if
it's over
there'd
the
been
top, I
one.
think.
Yeah, over the top. And even if there'd been one there, whether they've had anything to do other than tip it over the bar, I'm doubtful.
I suppose the thing is, it's a question of whether he would have played that shot had there been a slip. I suppose that's the only possible doubt.
That's
But
a
anyway,
big point, isn't it? It's,
Yeah.
it's 4 more runs. Taylor into McManus, shoulders arms. So McManus continues to be patient. And it's as though he's determined that he's going to be there at the end, and it doesn't really matter what he's on, whereas Kimber's determined he's going to be there at the end and he's going to be the one hitting the winning runs. Down to 38, and Gloucestershire really now need to break this partnership, because whilst there are 2 bowlers to come in Ben Sanderson and Liam Guthrie, one of these 2 could still easily guide Northamptonshire home, as Taylor is in and McManus slightly across the ball, but defending to cover, continues seemingly to receive every delivery that's straight on the stumps. Whilst it's amazing how that happens.
Yeah.
I mean, Kimber did get a few early in his innings to put away, but when a batter starts striking the ball the way that Kimber has been, it's amazing how he suddenly then has received a few more deliveries to put away. It sort of feeds itself. Taylor bowls a length ball to McManus, again straight enough that he has to get in line and block it away out into the covers. But on the first, I suppose, couple of days, what there was of the first couple of days, we finished each day at about 7:15, and in one case even later than that. And yet, apart from yesterday, we've had quite a lot of interruptions in the match, but a lot of talk was about this hybrid surface, the same surface that there was an abandonment between these 2 sides on 2 years ago. There's a banged in delivery from Taylor. McManus ducks underneath it. There certainly hasn't been as much talk today or yesterday, but in terms of what we've seen in the middle, there has been, and I'm sure will be at some stage, with the pitch ratings and all that, there will be a decision to be made by those that I'm sure know far more about it than me, as far as the rating of the pitch, with 2 very fast moving first innings as Taylor bowls and McManus defends once more into the covers.
Yeah, I did ask Luke Proctor, Northampton's captain, about it last night when I had a chat with him for BBC Radio Northampton, and yeah, he said he thought the first 2 days it was excessive in terms of the up and down, variable bounce, but he said effect of the roller, he thought it just flattened it out a bit, as you say, yesterday, and we haven't really seen a lot misbehaved today. In fact, I'm struggling to think of anything really that's misbehaved today.
No.
McSweeney had one very early on that just maybe bounced on him a touch.
Taylor round the wicket, bowls to McManus, tries a rising delivery which might have caught the glove with that leg slip having been put in the ball before, but there's nothing on that from McManus, and another maiden from Matt Taylor. So the score remains 211 for 7 and 38 needed to win by Northamptonshire, but both first innings lasting in the into the 52nd over. That's the one. And yeah, it was probably less the pure fact that happened, and more the fact that there have been quite a lot of blows to various parts of the body in this match.
3 men back on the leg side as Miles starts fresh over to Kimber, who defends up back past the bowler. Ollie Price shadows it from his fielding position at short mid-wicket up to mid-on, and there is no run. Sun, we've seen a little bit of brightness this morning, which, say, we looked at the forecast yesterday, you wouldn't have had on your Bristol bingo card for today. It's fairly bright at the moment. Plenty of cloud around, but the odd little patch of blue sky over in the distance. Here's Miles in and bowls to Kimber. Again clips it uppishly on the leg side, this time just behind square on the leg side, down to Joe Phillips. A deep backward square. Was in the air, but safely enough. Kimber goes to 52, beg his pardon. Northamptonshire to 212 for 7, needing 37 more runs to win. For McManus, slip goes back in, Ollie Price. And the field has generally a more orthodox appearance. 3 saving, 1 on the onside. Miles in, bowls to McManus, who's clipped that away for 4. Just in front of square on the leg side. Bancroft still in that position at leg gully. Price still in there at short mid-wicket, but they pulled the boundary riders up for McManus, and he takes advantage of it and clips it for 4. He goes to 7. Northamptonshire to 216 for 7, needing another 33 runs to win. We have half an hour to go until lunch. How many more twists and turns has this fascinating fixture got in store for us, I wonder? Here's Miles in, bowl short, and McManus ducks underneath it. We were saying yesterday, Ed, weren't we, on commentary, that it's, in a sense, as you've pointed out, we've had interruptions, and maybe that sort of lovely thread, that uninterrupted thread that you like to see in a 4-day game, we've perhaps lost a little bit disjointed at times, but it has provided some rare drama, especially on Saturday evening when we had that totally balmy, bonkers 2¼ hours session. And, well, the outcome still not known. His Miles in, bowls down the leg side. Good stop by Bracey. Just reached him. It's rather a difficult take for him because it was just on the half volley, but he did well at least to get a glove to it and prevent any question of byes.
I mean, it's not as though Craig Miles hasn't come very close to taking a wicket, but I think this was always the concern with no bell, was would Gloucestershire lose control at some point?
Well, Miles was running in and then realised that he got him, just lost his run slightly. Lewis McManus, he didn't think he was ready. I suppose if Northamptonshire do win this, it will be a Nobel Prize. Here all week. 216 for 7. They need 33. Gloucestershire need 3 wickets. Here's Miles in and bowls short, and McManus sways out of the way, watches it go through to Bracey. And that's the end of Craig Miles' 12th over, 1 for 50. Northamptonshire 216 for 7, 33 runs shy of their target. Louis Kimber is 52, Lewis McManus is 7, and Northamptonshire with Ben Sanderson And Liam Guthrie to come, and Sanderson was out first ball in the first innings. And Liam Guthrie didn't detain Gloucestershire for very long either, so all results still possible. What do you reckon about a tie?
I reckon, as I said in the finish last round against Kent, that I do not want to go through that ever again. Once, more than enough, thank you. Matt Taylor around the wicket, he bowls, bangs it in very short and wide, and he's going to get away with it as far as a wide, but it wasn't a delivery that Kimber fancied anything to do with. I can't even remember how we got onto it. Usually get onto it somehow, because it's just one of those games that you will never forget, the tie between Gloucestershire and Glamorgan in 2024 at Cheltenham, that I think had a certain amount of the cricketing world captivated at the end.
Indeed.
Glamorgan 1 run shy of a first-class record. Oh, Taylor tries a slower ball there, practicing for Friday, seeing whether Kimber fancied a bit of a swing and chip a catch somewhere. He was out in front of it, so he wasn't expecting it, but at the same time, he wasn't going through it with the amount of force that would have sent the ball in the air to a fielder, so no run as the drive is skewed to mid-wicket.
Will Williams, yes, warming up down below us.
Kind of has to happen, really, doesn't it? There's only going to be a certain number of overs remaining, and Bancroft's kind of got to flog Williams for a bit longer. We'll have a break for a bit, possibly, as Taylor is into Kimber, and that's defended into the onside, and there is no run. Last championship round for just under a month, when these two sides will meet again. 2 consecutive fixtures in the championship between these teams, but
when shall we two meet again? The answer is
quite a lot.
Wantage Road in about a month.
Yes, and the answer was quite a lot, because we'll see each other for a T20 match, I assume,
yes,
in
11
days. At Wantage Road, Taylor bowls very full, dugout back past the bowler. Taylor, I think, had thoughts of trying to deflect the ball onto the stumps at the non-striker's end. For some reason, there's some hesitation whether they should come through for a second run, which is very much there. Taylor, I don't know if he thought about trying to run out McManus at the non-striker's end and then didn't stop the ball, or whether he just couldn't quite get to it. But it's 2 more runs, and Northamptonshire now just require 31. And Kimber 54 from 50. There was always the potential for him to play this kind of an innings, and he has played it to perfection so far. Taylor into him, and he's caught on the crease. There's a very optimistic appeal for LBW. It's high and leg side-ish.
Good shout for mid-wicket.
Yeah. Shout from anywhere at this point, you'd think, but yeah, just a bit too much bounce. And there's another one that was endangering that particular piece of protective equipment, but I think just missed it to the left. I've seen a couple of extremely painful blows in this match. The physio came out for Safe Zabe. Not that he was going to do anything. Tommy Borman, Cameron Bancroft struck there, able to wince it off. Final ball of this Taylor over, 19th over of this innings, 5 for in the first innings, 2 for 42 in this second innings. Running in now, bowling, short ball, which Kimber ducks underneath. Like he saw that a little bit later than some, but he still had time to get down, and that is the end of the over. Whether that was a bit of a tempter with the big boundary out there, or whether they still think, at least whilst McManus is on strike, the runs aren't quite coming as quickly. And Will Williams still loosening up, so I don't know. As they switched ends with Taylor again, you'd imagine you'd want Williams to bowl from this pavilion end if he's going to come back.
James Bracey's just asked for a helmet, so presumably he's thinking about standing up to somebody, whether it's possibly ahead of Will Williams coming back into the attack, or Whether he's going to think about standing up to Craig Miles. Anyway, standing back at the moment with a slip in as Miles comes into bowl to McManus, and Manus defends out into the offside. Bancroft, Miles Hammond, beg his pardon, who's tight in there at extra cover fields. And there is no run for McManus. Third man down on the boundary, that is Will Williams. Deep backward square on the fence, long leg on the fence. But they have a slip in, backward point. Extra cover, mid off, mid on. And still mid wicket in there, pretty tight. Sky's just getting a little bit darker as Miles again aborts his run. Goes back to the end of his mark and runs in again to bowl to McManus, who turns it away off his hip down to long leg. Should be just a single. And is Matt Taylor fields, sends in his left arm return. One more to McManus. He goes to 8. Northamptonshire to 219 for 7, needing 30 to win.
That's all we need at this stage. A rain shower
well,
with
I was
5
just,
to win or something.
I was just thinking, you know, with this game has had pretty well everything in the course of its 3 and a bit days. So I would be very surprised if it doesn't have something else to perplex us with. Here's Miles running into bowl to Kimber, and that's a beauty, and that has spat up and taken Kimber on the right glove. And Kimber immediately goes down and gives this pitch a rather suspicious touch of the Monty Dons. Again, it's just short of a length, and it got up a little bit.
See, I mean, that to me just looked like general hybrid bounce. If it were from that length the whole time, I think it's when it's been fuller than that the problems have occurred.
There's been lots of discussion about the right lengths to bowl on this surface as Miles is in bowl short, and Kimber has hoisted that away into the deep. Is it going to clear the fielder? Well, he's done brilliantly down there. He's managed to, I think, flick it back. That's Joe Phillips down there. He was looking to try and get the assist, and Matt Taylor was running round but couldn't get to it. And I think, well, he's probably saved 5 runs.
Yeah, they've only run 1.
They've only run a single. While all that was happening, I think Kimber thought he was going to go for 6, as I did, but Phillips kept his eye on it, flicked it back inside, and if Matt Taylor had been there, Kimber would have been on his way, but he wasn't.
That's what I was wondering, but we're short of having a replay. I don't know whether Matt Taylor could have got there.
Here's Miles in again, clipped away by McManus. Meanwhile, in the real world, single out to deep mid-wicket for McManus. He goes to 10, Northamptonshire to 221 for 7. They need 28 to win, and I hate to be a harbinger of gloom, but it is definitely getting darker out there now.
Should we see if that floodlight's working yet?
Yes, one of the 4 big floodlights here hasn't been working. The other 3 have been fine, but that one over the far corner down by the flats, if you know this ground here at Bristol, like the bottom row of lights has worked and nothing else.
Where's that? I'm looking for a couple of the members of Gloucestershire staff who've got to charge across to the opposite side of the ground to turn the floodlights on.
Kimber on strike. Miles bowls to him short and punches it away out through the covers. This could run away for 4. Not sure if it's quite got the legs. It's a teaser, and it just about gets there. Tommy Ballman was in hot pursuit, couldn't reel it back. It's another boundary to Kimber. He goes to 59. Northamptonshire to 225 for 7. They need 24 to win. The umpires are coming together because it is a bit gloomy out there, and presumably, I don't think it's raining, but it is pretty gloomy, and maybe they're going to try and get the lights on.
Yeah, the question is, are they going to play on now or wait for the floodlights to come on? It looks as though they are going to.
Well, we had this issue last night, didn't we? When the umpires asked for the lights to come on, but
there just wasn't really the time.
Well,
for
presumably,
them to...
I mean, they knew, and this was the point that was being made. They knew that it takes 10 minutes for them to warm up, and in the end, we had a handful of deliveries with the lights on and then came off. It's one of those little anomalies that keeps us intrigued. Anyway, this is an important phase, you feel. Will Williams is coming back into the attack. It's the gloomy light. 20 minutes, just less than 20 minutes to go until lunch. Northamptonshire needing 24 to win. Gloucestershire need those 3 wickets.
One bowler to have success in terms of the wickets column today. Returning, keeper up to the stumps. Williams bowls, bit of width, but McManus can't time his forcing shot off the back foot into the offside.
Thing is, though, Ed, it maintains our record over the years that we've been commentating together. We never have dull games, do we?
No, and there often seems to be a weather element included as well.
Yes, very true.
Of last season, was the light going to hold? Williams in and turned to mid-wicket. McManus for no run. But it has been an extraordinary game of cricket, and it has to be said, if the pitch hadn't done what it has done, then we'd have had no chance of getting it in. And fixtures between these sides in recent times, especially here, have tended to either be barnstormers or you've had absolutely no cricket at all. There's been barely a day of cricket for whatever reason. Williams in, tries the in-swinger. McManus covers the movement and defends back up the pitch. We've had a game, of course, abandoned due to safety concerns over this particular pitch that we're playing on. We've had a game abandoned due to a close contact COVID-wise in 2020. Barely any play when both these sides went up at the same time in 2019. Both celebrating together as Williams bowls a wide delivery, can't tempt McManus into a shot. The year before that, there was almost no play at all in 2018.
And that game in 2019 here was the first-class debut of one Emilio Gay. He was shortly going to be
a dual international.
Opening for, yes, indeed, opening for England.
Williams pounding in, he bowls now, and McManus forward and defends a ball that maybe just had a little bit of late in tail. Not a huge amount, but it's what Williams does, just continues to challenge your judgment of which way the ball's going, even if you do know that it's going to be somewhere around middle and off stump. Williams to McManus, bit back of a length, and McManus in behind to defend yet another Williams maiden. I think that's got to be 5 in a row for him. Certainly at least 4. I reckon it might be 5.
I think it might be 5, yeah.
225 for 7. Still 24 needed, and Gloucestershire need a real, I suppose, shot in the arm now. And, well, they're going to go to spin.
We're going to see Graham Van Buren bowled 1 over for 6. Yesterday, we've seen very little spin in this game so far. Northamptonshire just using... Well, they had 1 over of McSweeney off spin, 1 over and 2 balls from Calvin Harrison leg spin in the second innings. As I say, we have 1 over from Graham Van Buren, but he's back into the attack. Now, what's Kimber going to do? He's got long off on the boundary, long on the boundary, deep mid-wicket on the boundary, deep backward square on the boundary, and Van Buren bowls, and he goes on to the back foot, Kimber, and plays it up to long on for a single. Kimber goes to 60, Northamptonshire to 226 for 7, 23 to win.
He should be doing that.
Well, I would go along with that entirely.
There shouldn't be much risk with Van Buren because I don't think this pitch is really likely to turn.
Here's Van Buren in bowls to McManus, who gives himself a little bit of room, plays it up to mid-off, but mid-off has to just go a little bit wider. Luke Charlesworth, and so there's a single. McManus to 10, 227 for 7, 22 to win. Van Buren in bowls to Kimber. A little bit hurried by that one, maybe just hustled through a tad quicker than he thought. Plays it out to mid-wicket. No run. Van Buren in again. Bowls to Kimber, goes for a big swing on the leg side. There's an appeal for LBW. Not out, says umpire Hassan Adnan. It rolls down towards short third man, and a leg by is signalled.
Just felt as though that was drifting, yeah.
228 for 7.
Down leg side, plenty.
21 to win. Brings McManus back onto strike with a slip in. Van Buren bowls to him. McManus defends. Back down the pitch, and there is no run. 2-2-8 for 7. 21 needed for Northamptonshire. 3 wickets needed for Gloucestershire. Round the wicket comes Van Buren. Flighted up and driven very calmly by Lewis McManus out to deep mid-off for a single. He keeps the bowling, and that is the 50 partnership between these two. And from Northamptonshire's point of view, they've done pretty much everything that could have been hoped. But of course, they still have a job to finish. 2-2-9 for 7, 20 runs required for Northamptonshire. 13 minutes to go, according to the clock on the scoreboard, before lunch.
They can add the 15 minutes on, can't they?
Well, I wonder if that was what the umps were talking about an over or two back.
They may well be playing to the end here, and I think whilst how many was it needed to win by Lancashire when we took lunch? I think it was about 14 or something like that. We took lunch, but I don't think that either side would be particularly desperate to take lunch here. They
I don't think so.
just want to get it done one way or the other. There's going to be a leg gully for McManus, no slip. Very much a leg gully now. They've pretty much got leg gully and fine leg standing one behind the other. Williams in and bowls, and McManus last minute almost jump across his crease and then turning it to the leg side. But once again, whether it's been deliberate or not, I don't think it has been, but McManus has faced basically all of Williams. Williams has he had one over at Kimber, and that's been it. They'd have loved for Williams to bowl at Kimber a bit more. He's in now, or McManus tries a dangerous shot, a little late dab and misses it, and it beats his edge. And that was just a little bit too cute from McManus. Admittedly, there's no slip in, and the keeper is standing up to the stumps. However, it is not a shot that
there's a slip.
Good to have got
there's
out
a slip
to.
now.
Yes. So of course he won't play the shot.
No. Well,
he shouldn't. Play
from
the
a Northamptonshire
shot,
perspective, one hopes he doesn't, but there is a slip now.
20 to win. Williams in to McManus, who pushes in the air. It's going to land short of mid-on, and Gloucestershire have had a few of these teasers where the ball's been uppish, but either it's been just wide or just short of a fielder. And with some of that pace coming out of the surface, had that feeling of the fact that if Gloucestershire are going to get catches, it's probably more likely to come that way. They haven't had many, if any, at times in the slips. Williams in, bowls, McManus blocks it solidly back. There's no run. Needless to say, no runs off this. Will Williams over either. But it just felt this morning, just one batter for Northamptonshire needed to go relatively big, and you only needed, 15s, 20s around it. Kimber's that man so far. Williams tries the in-ducker, it comes in late. It's another lovely piece of bowling, but it is well defended by McManus, has to be well defended. Got a perfect view behind the bowler's arm. You can see exactly what Will Williams is doing. He is getting a ball that's in its 71st over to shape subtly one way and the other. Keeper up to the stumps, pinning McManus into his crease. Williams completes the over, bowls down the leg side. It's well taken by Bracey, just tipped it up in the air and caught it at the second attempt. It does complete what I think may well be Williams' 6th consecutive maiden. I've had to dive back through the list of overs to confirm that, but it's certainly 5. And it's 2-2-9 for 7 still, with 20 to win. At lunch, by the way, at Lords, where Derbyshire 37 for 1, requiring 85 to win.
Van Buren in bowls to Kimber, who tries to drive, scuffs it into the ground, and it rolls back to the bowler. Long off, still on the boundary, long on likewise. Deep mid-wicket, deep backward square. Short goes Van Buren, hammered away by Kimber, but there is protection at deep extra cover, and he's only going to get a single. Kimber goes to 61. Northamptonshire to 230 for 7. 19 runs required. Slip goes in for McManus. It's Van Buren round the wicket bowls and played back down the pitch by Lewis McManus. Kimber leaning on his bat at the non-striker's end. Van Buren scurrying back to his mark. He's in again, bowls. And Kimber, McManus again trying to give himself a bit of room to access the offside. Just goes up to extra cover where Miles Hammond fields. There's Van Buren in again, and McManus playing back just manages to get some bat on it. It rolls down past the stumps. James Bracey can't quite believe that it didn't go into them. Here's Van Buren in again, defended by McManus. And that's the end of the over. 230 for 7. I wonder, Ed, and we were talking about the over rate earlier, whether that, just the general air of urgency out there at the moment, whether the 8 hours is up or whatever it is, the 8 hours net as opposed to 8 hours gross, that determines whether you get possibly penalised for over rates.
There's been a few gross 8 hours in this commentary box. I can tell you that much.
Now.
But no, it's probably got to be a factor, hasn't it? But they've cycled through really all their options from that Ashley Down road end, short of forcing Matt Taylor to come back. Williams into Kimber with the keeper back, so they have actually finally got Kimber on strike to Will Williams, and Kimber defending 61 off 61, but it reminds me a bit of that phenomenal innings that Grant Stewart played here last year. That was a 170 odd, but the way that Kimber's gone about it has been quite similar, really. Williams in, away swinger is well left by Kimber, just in so much as the fact that it has not been slogging, it's just been strong shots to slight opportunities to score, in some cases, you know, quite, in his case, welcome opportunities to score, but he has, I don't think he's missed out on a single opportunity to put the ball to the boundary. Williams to Kimber, defended to extra cover for a moment. Off stump was there, but across comes Kimber to defend. That was that little away shaper that starts on middle and off and moves towards the top of off stump. He's done everything in his power today, has Will Williams. Somebody was going to have to really step up with no bell. As Williams bowls Fuller, driven through extra cover. This is going to go towards the extra cover boundary. The fielder tries to get there, but will not. So 4 runs closer for Northamptonshire. It is 15 to win. Kimber's innings 65 from 64. And even Will Williams not immune. Wasn't much wrong with that ball, but he's just stroked it away and found not an enormous gap, but no chance for anybody to stop it. Williams bangs one in short and Kimber sways out of the way of it. Doesn't have anything to do with it. So, it's funny though with Van Buren at the other end the last couple of overs, because he's not really getting the ball to turn, but when you get to this sort of situation where it's very much in the head, it's amazing what can happen when you stick any sort of spin on. It's very much in the head. You have that extra time to think.
We were saying yesterday was why I think Northamptonshire may have missed a trick by not getting Harrison on a bit sooner.
Last ball of the over, Williams to Kimber, and defends softly away to extra cover. And that's the end of another over from Williams. 2 for 50. 15 to win, and Gloucestershire need well, it's not quite miracle territory, but they're going to have to have 3 magic deliveries in a very short space of time.
The umpire's just looking across at each other, so presumably they are thinking about whether we're going to get extra time, if not penalties, to determine this. Van Buren starting a fresh over from the Ashley Down road end, bowls to McManus, who stretches forward, pushes it out to short extra. Slip in for McManus. 4 saving 1 on the offside, and McManus defends again. Out to extra cover, fielded by Miles Hammond. Van Buren round the wicket to McManus, who drives, and that's a super bit of fielding by Miles Hammond. At the moment, it's can somebody else play, because it's Van Buren to McManus, fielded by Hammond. But that was a super bit of fielding with his left hand. Van Buren a little bit quicker, defended by McManus, back down the pitch, and Van Buren scurrying back to his mark. Bowls again to Lewis McManus, who again defends back down the pitch. And he didn't even pick the ball up cleanly, and already Van Buren is back at the end of his mark. Now the field comes in, or at least the fielder on the boundary comes in at deep mid-wicket, as Van Buren bowls to McManus, works it out to mid-wicket, and that's the end of a maiden for Van Buren, 4 overs for 10. Northamptonshire 234 for 7, 15 to win. Gloucestershire still needing 3 wickets to snatch the points. We are in the final over. I imagine this will be, if you like, normal time. And then it's a question of what the umps decide.
Yes. I can tell you it's still a rain delay at Utilita Bowl, by the way. They've had lunch there, but not back out after, with Hampshire 97 for 5. In the extra half hour at Beckenham, as in comes Williams, bowls a short one. Kimber had a brief thought
about it, didn't he?
Bringing out the mighty axe to have a swing.
He just realised, I think, he was going to be hitting towards the longer boundary, and wiser counsel prevailed.
Yeah, Durham 310 for 9, so Kent could make them follow on at Beckenham, which would be quite something. Top of the table, Durham, but Northamptonshire looking to keep pressure on the top 2 places here with a victory, as Williams runs in and bowls, and just turned down to fine leg by Kimber. Roll of the wrists, picks up a single, and it's 14 to win. So McManus back in the firing line for Will Williams, and Gloucestershire looking for their second win of the season. They have played their part in, well, this match and the last 2 home matches, more than played their part, but
could still win this one, Ed.
It would. It can. They very much can, but as Williams runs in and bowls now, and that's pushed away to backward point by McManus, I guess what I'm saying is that it will sting more because of the fact that they've played some really good cricket in the game against Kent, and from early on against Lancashire as well, and they'll come away from those games with very little. But
it is such a tight division, Ed.
It is, and it's also you would rather be in that position than I think struggling to take wickets, as Williams runs in, bowls wide outside off stump, sharp take from Bracey, no shot from McManus, and that has been the issue for Gloucestershire for a number of seasons now, has been taking 20 wickets. And really, ever since the first couple of games of the season, Gloucestershire have looked like taking 20 wickets, but I suppose the frustration is that a batting lineup that produced the most runs of any side in the country last year hasn't quite been able to give the bowlers enough runs. Williams turned into the onside and fielded at mid-wicket by Joe Phillips, and that's not to say that, you know, to point the finger of blame anywhere, but you know, because they've been
J'accuse.
There've been plenty of moments elsewhere. There were a few catches that went down in the Kent game that may have proved critical, but they've done an awful lot right in this game of Gloucestershire, and as you say, it's still there. Williams bowls, McManus squared up, and that was very nearly the moment. That was a bizarre shot from McManus. He played that to extra cover with the bat facing mid-wicket.
It was just a hint of the curtain rail there, wasn't there?
Yes.
Just watching the Oh yes, that was a Bob Willis
Bang
special.
in front of middle as well.
That was a Bob Willis special. The old curtain rail. Well, the umpires have had another chat.
Decided that play will continue in order to try and force a result.
So it's four
overs, isn't
I
it?
believe, isn't it?
So, well, I'm not entirely sure that's going to be enough, but we shall see. Here's Van Buren in and bowls to Kimber. He's bowled him! And Van Buren has picked up the wicket of Louis Kimber, dragged it on, I think. And my goodness, this game, we said how many more twists and turns is it going to have? Well, it's had another one now. Kimber has gone, bowled by Van Buren for 66. And Northamptonshire still need, it was a wide ball. Kimber went after it, got a thick inside edge onto the stumps. And is that the moment that gives Gloucestershire maybe just the edge? 235 for 8. Northamptonshire need 14 to win. And now just 2 wickets remaining. And from Gloucestershire's point of view, they are through to the bowlers.
The face of Graham Van Buren lighting up as he charges off into the covers. It was a very wide ball, and you can see why Kimber went after it. And you have to wonder a little bit. I think Kimber's just seen some width and gone after it. I don't think there's anything more to it than that. But when you take the extra quarter of an hour and there's that, well, let's just get this game done now. There really is that extra feeling of, right, let's get it done in this quarter of an hour.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's had any effect. It's not impossible, but I don't think it did. I think it was just a wide ball, and it may have just drifted enough that it caught that inside edge, but be walking off wondering how he's managed that. And and again, I say it's funny in this situation. You just stick a spinner on, and things change.
Well, Ben Sanderson comes in, who is one of several players who've come to the crease in the respective second innings to be on a king pair. He was out caught by Van Buren at mid-off Matt Taylor for naught in the first innings. And he's now facing Van Buren. 14 to win for Northamptonshire and make that 13 as Sanderson clips that one away into the leg side and comes in off the boundary at deep mid-wicket. And Sanderson is off the mark. 236 for 8. 13 needed by Northamptonshire, 2 wickets needed for Gloucestershire. A lot resting now on Lewis McManus. McManus defends that next ball from Van Buren. Back down the pitch. That was so wide, that ball to Louis Kimber. And his eyes lit up, didn't they? But Van Buren in again, bowls to McManus. Nice looking shot from McManus. Drives it up to long off. And he picks up a single. McManus to 12. Northamptonshire to 237 for 8. 12 runs away.
He may be a bowler, but he is an experienced head.
Well, captain the side, of course. Oh, Sanderson, oh, absolutely. And he's just opened the face there, let's be kind, and steered it down to short third man, where Matt Taylor fields, and it's another single to Sanderson. He goes to 2. 238 for 8. 11 to win. 1 ball left in this over. Van Buren in and bowls to McManus, who sweeps. This could be 4. It's running down towards the boundary. It is going to be 4. And, well, that will just ease the nerves maybe a tad in the Northamptonshire camp. It's a boundary to McManus. It was down the leg side. He's a good sweeper of the ball, Lewis McManus.
Wow.
Swept it from outside off stump. But, well, he took the calculated risk and he's benefited to the tune of 4 runs. He goes to 16. 242 for 8. Northamptonshire needs 7 to win. Gloucestershire need 2 wickets, and we have 3 overs to go in this little bit of extra time. But Williams is going to be bowling to Sanderson, which I think is what Gloucestershire would have wanted.
Indeed, yeah. And another fine over from Van Buren, and actually it was probably the worst ball in it that got the wicket. I mean, that one, you have to have ultimate trust in your sweep shot to sweep that at this stage, drifting into off stump. Here comes Williams bowling to Sanderson. He tries a short one and Sanderson ducks underneath it. Matt Taylor is warming up at mid-on, so it may be that having produced the scalp, Van Buren is whipped out of the attack, and Gloucestershire will end this possibly with one of their front line seamers. I suppose when Williams and Taylor without Bell today, they're two front line seamers. Williams doesn't bowl. I don't think that was anything to do with McManus wandering along, but I think he just felt something as he was running in. He's just jumped up and down like a Tigger on the bed on a particular spot as he was running in. The over rate, by the way, back to level thanks to those rapid fire overs from Van Buren, for what that's worth. Williams bowls and Sanderson turns it into the leg side. There's no fielder saving the single at square leg, and so Sanderson gets Northamptonshire one closer, and it is 6 to win. And I think I've reached the point where I reached with Matt Cole last week with 6 to win and 8 down, and we'd say if it gets to 9 down, we'll open negotiations. But over to you, Radders.
Well, thanks, Ed, but I hope the nerves out there are a bit better than mine up here. Here's Williams in to bowl, and bowls short to McManus, who ducks underneath it. The light is having come over decidedly gloomy maybe 10-15 minutes ago. Is better. I just got a funny feeling that we'll still have to come back after lunch.
What have we got? 7 minutes.
7 minutes. So Williams, Northamptonshire needing 6 to win. Gloucestershire needing 2 wickets. He's in and bowls to McManus, and he nudges that away into the onside by McManus. Northamptonshire creep closer to the tune of 1. McManus goes to 17. 244 for 8. Northamptonshire haven't won on this ground in the county championship for 13 years. Last time they won here was in 2013, which Northamptonshire supporters will recall was a promotion year. Here's Williams. Bowls to Ben Sanderson, who has a little nibble at that, and he's managed to get enough bat on it to take it down to third man. They're going to come back for 2, and they get there comfortably. Third man was fairly fine, and Sanderson, as you say, Ed, canny old performer that he is. Not that old. And he picks up a couple of runs. Northamptonshire 246 for 8, 3 to win. Batters confer what they can possibly be conferring about at this stage. I don't know whether it's...
Are we going to take a single?
Are we going to take a single?
Possibly,
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, Sanderson is on 5. He is facing Williams short, and Sanderson ducks underneath it, so McManus will have strike for the start of the next over. 246 for 8. Northamptonshire need 3 to win. McManus is 17. Sanderson is 5. Williams 24 overs, 8 maidens, 2 for 55, and yet another instance where the bowling figures, by no stretch of the imagination, tell the whole story of just how well Will Williams has bowled, particularly this morning. Van Buren, well, they're going to keep faith with him, having picked up, well, I suppose, why wouldn't you? And he picked up the key wicket of Louis Kimber. 3 to win for Northamptonshire. Van Buren from the Ashley Down Road end bowls to McManus, who defends back down the pitch. And there is no run. Clock showing 1:41. Here's Van Buren. Bowls to McManus, who looks to force off the back foot. Doesn't time it. And it fielded out there by short extra cover. Still a backward point. Short extra, a more orthodox extra, a bit deeper. McManus pushing that just behind square on the offside. Fielded there by Matt Taylor. And there's no run. Northamptonshire still needing 3 to win. Van Buren bowls to McManus and again defends back down the pitch. Fielded by Van Buren off his own bowling. 2 balls left in this over. And here is Van Buren in and bowls and defended again by McManus back down the pitch. Now, will they look for a single? Maybe off this next ball. Bancroft thinks they might look for the single and has brought up Joe Phillips into the ring. And similarly, it's brought up deep mid-wicket into the ring. Last ball of the over. Van Buren bowls, driven by McManus. They're going to go for the single, shy at the stumps at the non-striker's end, and it misses. And crucially, Joe Phillips backed up because it was fair enough. You've got to have a throw at it. It was a tight single. They got there. The run counts. But if Joe Phillips hadn't have had his wits about him, that could have been that, because the throw was an absolute exocet in towards the non-striker's end. Almost hit Lewis McManus. If it had hit the stumps, it would have been very tight.
He might have just made it with a dive. I didn't think there was ever a single there. Luke Charlesworth was the fielder at mid-off.
Well, it was he gave it everything, as you would imagine. But as I say, the key for me there was that Joe Phillips had his wits about him, backed it up, because if he hadn't, 5 runs, end of game.
Very much so. I mean, it would have been quite some decision for the umpire to have made in terms of, you know, Gloucestershire's screaming at the umpire, appealing, the stumps being splattered. What would have happened? We'll never know, because the throw didn't hit.
Well, this is the 4th over of the extra time. Clock showing 1:43, and Matt Taylor is replacing Will Williams from this pavilion end. Northamptonshire need 2 to win, 2:47 for 8. McManus is on strike. They have a slip. Ring of fielders looking to save runs, and it's clipped away by Lewis McManus through square leg for 4, and Northamptonshire have won a terrific game of cricket here at Bristol by 2 wickets. It's the first time they've won, as I mentioned, on this ground in the Championship since Stephen Peters was captain back in 2013. Lewis McManus, usually a cool head, seeing Northamptonshire through. Ben Sanderson likewise. McManus 22 not out, Sanderson 5. And Northamptonshire, as you say, Ed, depending on obviously what happens elsewhere, but keeping up the pressure on Durham at the top of the table, with a 2nd Championship win of the season. And I feel like a damp rag at the moment, but a wonderful game of cricket that reflects very well on both sides, and Gloucestershire certainly proving again that they are a very, very competitive side in what is a very, very competitive division.
Indeed, yes, and it doesn't, in a way, I suppose at the moment, feel great for Gloucestershire at all, because that is back-to-back defeats by 2 wickets on their home ground, but they are coming so close to, I suppose, getting regular wins, but unfortunately that is now 5 defeats in their first 6 games. But it's one thing, I think you lose by an innings, as they did the first 2 games, and in a way you have plenty of time to kind of process and accept what's going on, but it must feel worse, even though it shouldn't, the fact that they've lost 3 of 4 pretty narrowly, and once again trying to defend a score which is, these days, it used to be that you chase and you'd think, oh, you can't chase anything. Nowadays, teams seem to love a chase, but it's been an excellent chase from Northamptonshire. Kimber, I suppose, the star of the show, but the work that McSweeney did against the newer ball to face 127 balls for 46, you have to say that was an enormous part of Northamptonshire getting over the line here.
And I think the other thing, Ed, is that we were saying when McSweeney got out and Lewis McManus came in, McManus then had to assume the McSweeney mantle and be the sort of the rock around which, you know, Kimber in particular was able to play the way he did. And McManus 22 not out off 86 balls, and that is a really, really important contribution from Lewis McManus, and to him fell the pleasure of making the winning hit.
So 19 points to Northamptonshire. Gloucestershire will take 3 points, but I think it was always felt it was going to be a potentially a tough championship season for Gloucestershire, but there have been far more bright spots than that record of 5 defeats in 6 would show. But ultimately, I'm sure they will be very disappointed. But I don't think really in this second innings there's very much. If anything, they could have done differently. They bowled superbly, but Northamptonshire in the end just that little bit better to chase the runs down. So for the championship, that's it, as we mentioned earlier, for just under a month. June the 12th will be the next championship fixture. I shall look forward to your company,
former
Radders,
Players' Day at Northampton. That will be as well. So,
but otherwise, the T20 Blast begins on Friday. Gloucestershire have got back-to-back games on Friday and Saturday to open up that competition. A double header here on Friday with Glamorgan's women taking on Gloucestershire's women, and then Gloucestershire starting their T20 campaign against the Bears and Glamorgan the next day. Northamptonshire on Friday as well.
Friday night against Glamorgan at Wantage Road, and then away on Sunday to Worcestershire at New Road. And of course, we'll have full commentary on both those games via BBC Radio Northampton.
Indeed, commentary of both Gloucestershire's opening fixtures available on the BBC Sport website and app. So once again, as ever, thank you so much to James Healy for his work. For those of you who've been watching on the Gloucestershire live stream, bringing the pictures to you. Radders, it's been a great pleasure.
Thank you,
once
Ed.
again.
Likewise.
Long may this run of
Yes.
cracking games between these two sides continue.
Quite right.
And I'll look forward to seeing you. Well, actually, I'll have to say I'll see you next month, but I may well see you this month for the T20. We'll see. But thanks very much, Radders. Safe trip back from me. Once again, thanks for listening, wherever you've been following along from. It is goodbye from Bristol, where Northamptonshire have won this match by 2 wickets. We'll speak to you again soon.